Good afternoon, welcome to the studio. I've got the camera in my face, haven't I? And I'm Zerrigan Art. And this is kind of an unusual stream in that I'm streaming in the afternoon. But I'm on holiday and I've got a bracelet to make, so I thought I'd stream making said bracelet. Yeah then. So I've got a full Persian 6-in-1 as it happens to make, so I'm going to be counting rings for a moment. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 49, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 28, 29, 31, 32, lost count, let's say 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. I don't know exactly how many rings I want. I'm making, this is 6 inches. So the chain will be about 5.5 inches, and then on top of that we'll have about half an inch of clasp. Is that focused? Let me just check. That isn't, but when I start working at about that there, that isn't either. So just bear with me a second, let's see if I can get something about focus, the right sort of focus. I'm not using autofocus because it humps, which can be a little bit of a pain in the neck when that happens. Well, having said which, autofocus is enabled. So why are you not focusing? That's probably why. It shouldn't be enabled. But we'll go with that and we'll see how that goes. Okay. Now you may notice as well that all the stuff on the right hand side has gone, apart from the website at the bottom, because I keep working off frame. So now then, I should have around here somewhere I should have a ring, there it is, with which I open rings. So about 50. So look, I need to open about 50 and I need to close about 50. And I'm going to switch to using a different set of pliers. Yeah, I was going to say, assuming I can find them. Actually, it won't be those, it will be these. So I'm using these because they've got a wide nose. So when I'm opening rings, I've got quite a large area that I'm working with, and it saves me sort of bending the rings. What can happen if I use, well, it doesn't usually happen, but what can happen if you use little tiny needle nose pliers like this, or chain nose, is you can sort of twist the wire locally rather than opening them. Doesn't happen very often, but sort of just in case. Plus these are a little bit easier to handle when I'm using large rings like this. Just easier to grasp hold of the rings. So what I'm making is going to be a full Persian 6-in-1. I've got to start by opening and closing rings. So this is something which has been bought from the shop on Etsy, so if you are watching, would like to take a look yourself at what's on the shop, zaragonart.etsy.com. is the place to go and take a look. Fortunately, you won't get it before Christmas now. We are too late to post anything, even if I was able to make it today. Which, depending on what it is will depend on whether I can make it today. You are now into the Christmas post period. If you're wondering what a half Persian 6-in-1 looks like, and can't be bothered to go look at the website, then it looks like this one, that one, not that one, this one. So what was that? Ace 1868. Thank you for the host, sir. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Hey, how are you doing? You just finished streaming for today? I said I did pyrography, and here you see me catching jewellery making. Yeah, I'm going to make one of these. Somebody's just ordered one, so this is a half Persian. But since you are here, and pyrography, we're talking about pyrography. I'll show you some of it. If I can get this camera, I now need to refocus the camera, but and of course that's. Let me just refocus the camera a little. If I can get it to do so. There we go. That was a piece. That was a kitten. A couple of pieces I have just finished recently. Is this one, Hearthstone card. I need to bring the camera up even more to get it in. And then that was another Hearthstone card. What else have I got? And I'm currently working on this, which is going to be a leopard coming out of the darkness at you. Oh, you finished a while ago, but you were relaxing. Oh, okay. I've been out today. I'm not working. I'm not working at the moment, so I don't get a chance to look at streams. Daytime streams I put on whilst I'm working at work, and I can sometimes interact. And thank you very much, Ace. That's very kind of you to say so. I'm just wondering if I've got anything. Well, I've got a few more. I mean, I can just to show everybody. I'm now disappeared off camera to the other side of the room, but I'm just going to pick up some of the other pieces. I've got a few around, just to give everybody an idea of some of the stuff that gets done on this stream. So here you've got this is actually called Salute to Sunset, but that obviously is an elephant and savannah. Yeah. And a lion, of course. And to change completely, we've got a monorail from Disney World. But that's a few things just around. What else is here? Oh, I've just got some bits of wood. Okay. You've been there once? The African Savannah or Disney World? Thank you very much. Always nice to have people obviously like what you're doing, and of course somebody who is also a pyrographer. It's great to have them say the same thing. Now, just excuse me. I'm just going to refocus the camera because with the jewellery, autofocus does not work very well. So I set a manual focus. What have you been? What were you doing today then? Because the last I saw was the coat hooks the other day that you were doing. So, with chainmail, half of the work that you do is preparing, which is just opening and closing, opening rings and closing them. So this is kind of the less interesting bit of it, and I have to keep remembering to try and stay on camera. That looks dark to me. Has this camera been playing up again? Yeah. What was that? Thank you very much for the bits, Ace. That's very kind of you. That's very kind of you. You do the same. Bunny a dog. Okay. Yeah. One of the things I'm going to do. I don't know about whether I can do it today, but I want to make a Christmas card and actually pyrograph a Christmas card. Actually, there's a couple of things I want to do, and it's like everything else. There's always the time. But I want to do a Christmas card, and I also want to. I've got some watercolor paper. I want to do some pyrography on paper. Paper is always a challenge because it's so easy to make it too dark, and I like using a realism style. So, thanks, Badge. Talking of badges, one of the interesting things is as an associate is the subscriber emotes, and the problem I've got is I do about 5 or 6 different crafts, and so there's wood carving, there's jewellery that you're seeing here, there's the pyrography, there's something called punchcraft, which is a bit like rug making, scraper board, and trying to think of emotes which sort of say something about the channel when I do that many different things is difficult. Yeah, I've done some on paper, and I've even done some on things like the 80-gram photocopier paper, which is a real challenge. But I've never actually tried proper watercolour paper, which is obviously quite thick. So, so I actually want to see if I can do that, because if I like a challenge to start with, but that's how I learn new things. But one of the things is putting some of those sort of largish pieces up into the shop. Postage is really expensive because it's over A4 size when you've packaged it up, and that in the UK that postage is really expensive. Whereas if I do work on paper, I can roll it up into a tube. Yeah, I have no idea how we're going to do how the paper's going to react. It's going to be fun. Although I'm kind of toying with what to actually do on the paper as well. I've got one of the thoughts I did have was taking that leopard and actually just focusing way in on the muzzle and the eyes, and just doing that as an image. Or the other one is something like that, which could prove to be interesting to do. Of course, because one of the things is when you do pyrography on paper, it looks like sepia tone. So if I am careful, I can make it look like an old photograph, and that could be interesting. Right, so I've got about something approaching 50-ish rings here, so I'm now going to more or less do the same sort of thing on here, but close them up. By pre-opening the rings and closing the rings, what it means is that when I actually weave them, the process is a lot faster, because I'm not individually opening these and then closing them for each ring that I actually weave through. And since you effectively end up sort of picking up and putting down pliers every time you pick up a ring, then it becomes a lot quicker to do this sort of job before we start weaving than afterwards. Oops. So if anybody's not seen chainmail before, the way in which these rings are made means there is a slight gap just about see it there. The two ends are offset and there's a slight gap. It's the way in which they wire it, because they're made by wrapping wire around a rod, and then they use a saw and cut down the length of it. So there's a very slight gap, as you can get a nail between it there. And what you're doing with chainmail once you've woven them, or even here, is I'm twisting the ring so the two ends line up with each other and pushing it together to close that gap up, and it becomes almost seamless. In fact, there are times when I'm looking at this and I'm trying to find where the end is to open it, and I can spend 5 minutes looking for the end. It can be that good a closure. And other times you get rings that are wide open like that for no apparent reason. Throw that one to one side. Put that to one side, because if I close that ring enough, it's going to go oval shaped, which won't look very good. Now this is an afternoon stream for me, which is unusual because I'm normally working. So I'm on holiday this week, so the opportunity arose to stream in an afternoon. I'll be streaming again tonight if anybody wants to come back and take a look. And I will be, if I don't start it again this afternoon, I'll be doing some more work on that leopard this evening. All in all, that leopard is going to take about 10 to 15 hours of work to complete. Well, that's my current expectation. It's going to be the largest cat that I've done in physical size, and the cat portraits I've done before have been domestic cats, and I've done those on smaller pieces of wood, and one of those takes about 10 hours. So this I'm going to use similar techniques. So I'll be using what is effectively a sharp blade, and I'll actually be doing individual hairs. And I won't literally be doing individual hairs, but to all intents and purposes that's what I will be doing. So there'll be tens of thousands probably of individual strokes that go into that to make up the actual image, although it is going to be interesting because it's effectively it's white on white fur. It's I mean, a leopard, you could actually have a snow leopard which is white and black, or a normal leopard, which of course is a browny orange and black. But either way, when you're doing it in pyrography, you are kind of doing black and white. So the black is solid black and the white isn't. The white has little sort of bits of shades and things, and I'm still wondering how well I'm going to do that. Domestic cats, I've never actually done a white cat. I've always done, you know, things like you saw Thea, the kitten, but black and white, ginger, tortoise shell, and they are doing their fur is going to be a lot easier than something which is effectively white, like the tiger. Sorry, the leopard. I've done that or a similar image to that leopard on scraper board as well, and that's relatively easy to do because you're creating the white rather than the black. But so far, I don't think I've ever done a picture which is easy. What have I done with the portrait? Hey, that's a point. I was just thinking then, I do a lot of portraits as well, and I'm just wondering where I've put two of them. They need to be. Oh, they'll be over there. Yeah, I recently did a couple of portraits of a couple of pop stars on on stage, and they're quite a lot of fun to do. Multitasking. I was just thinking there, it's multitasking. It's usually what I do whatever I'm watching on the stream. There's a lot of lurkers usually around in my streams for some reason. But I kind of like that in a way, because it either means people are completely ignoring me, or people are so engrossed in what I'm doing that they don't want to talk. I know when I watch a lot of streams, if I try and participate in chat, I spend more time watching the chat than I do actually watching the streamer. So if I'm talking in chat, I'm not watching the stream. Cat hairs. There's some cat hairs flying around here somewhere. Junior, who is one of our cats, sheds fur. For some reason it always clings to your nose. Oops, is it? Right, I almost finished closing these, then we'll start a weave. So, full Persian, it's called, as opposed to half Persian. And I'm guessing it became called full Persian after half Persian got invented, because half a Persian is half a full Persian. So, I'm guessing originally the full Persian was called Persian. Somebody then invented the half Persian, and therefore Persian got renamed as full Persian in order to just distinguish it. And whilst it's quite a romantic name, isn't it, Persian, it's very likely it was named just to distinguish it from things like the Japanese and the European. Japanese and European are actually geographic styles, so they originated in those geographies. Persian, however, probably had nothing to do with Persia. It was just literally named to distinguish it from the others. Now, there are variants on it, and the variants. The variant that I'm going to be doing here is called 6-in-1, and that refers to there being 6 rings going through every single ring. So each ring has 6 others going through it. There are variants like a 4-in-1, which is a looser weave. It has a slightly different look. And they're just all different. There are literally thousands of weaves that you can weave rings into. You wouldn't think a little simple piece of metal like this. There are literally thousands of different ways you can put a few dozen of them together. And I'm not sure whether I've got a favourite. I know there's some that I really enjoy making. A common one is called Byzantine, and that you see in a lot of jewelleries. Don't actually have one to hand. One of my favourites to make is called candy cane. Well, this is an example of candy cane. Don't know if you can just about see it on here. So, I make one of these that's coloured. and you actually can probably see there's like a spiral going through this, and that's where it gets its name. It's like the spiral candy cane that you see in America, you know, the walking stick shaped things. And I love it because it looks so chaotic, and yet it's got a pattern to it. This is stainless steel, by the way. Just to, while I'm thinking about it, mention full Persian, which is what we're doing here. This is half Persian, so this is kind of like half of that, sort of. It's a variant of the half Persian. This is a variant called 4-in-1, because there's 4 rings go through each ring. But there's a variant called 3-in-1, and 3-in-1 is literally half of that. That's 6-in-1. A 3-in-1 is literally sort of half of it. So it's like an L shape with 3-in-1. So if you imagine one side and the base, or one side and the top of this forms 3-in-1. The 4-in-1 is a closer weave, and I like that quite nicely. It lies nice and flat. And that, by the way, is sterling silver, which incidentally I don't sell, because to sell it I have to hallmark it, and that's expensive. Can't sell sterling silver jewellery without it being hallmarked. It's actually a criminal offence. Now then, we've got the rings. Let's actually start. Hello! So you saw the pyrography earlier of a pussycat. This is the model. This is Theo the kitten, although he's a year old now. Aren't ya? Hey? Oh dear. There we go. This fella you can turn upside down like this and hold him, and he often will lie there for ages. Are you happy now? You probably heard him squeaking when he came in. He just wanted a little bit of... No, you're not going to play with those rings. Off he goes. Right. The important stuff is a cup of tea. Now then, this is where I start having to remember how to weave this stuff. So, and not only that, I have to remember to stay on camera. So I want one open ring onto which I put 4 closed rings, which are often difficult to pick up. And when you do pick them up, it's often difficult to keep hold of the things. There we go. There is it. Did I mention this gets frustrating occasionally? I'm sure that ring escaped somewhere, but never mind. There is a knack to picking these up if you can learn it, which is to sort of tilt it up like that, get it to tilt up. So I start with 4, and then I took another one of these open rings and feed it through the same 4, because these are all sort of done in pairs. Now with a lot of weaves, and this one's not as bad as some, it's the start which is always awkward. Getting the start right. Once you've got the start right, it becomes a lot easier. Now one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a little black tie and just pass it through my end pair of rings. One of the reasons for doing that is it tells me which is the end pair. Because sometimes when these sorts of, it won't do it now, but sometimes when you've woven a few of these, you put it down and it becomes a case of there's an end there somewhere, and you know, you only need to have picked up the wrong ring like that, and you're thinking, why have I got 4 rings, before you actually sort of sort it out. Now the half Persian isn't as bad, the full Persian isn't as bad. The half Persian though is a real pain to start unless you know the tricks. It takes something like about 10 rings in the weave before it becomes what we describe as stable. So a weave that is stable means if I drop it on the desk anyhow, I can pick it up again and quickly find the end and carry on. If it's unstable, and a half Persian is unstable at the start, if I drop it on the desk, you can spend 20 minutes moving the rings around, trying to get them back into the right position to feed the next ring in, and it basically just loses all its form and pattern and shape. But once there's enough rings in the pattern, it stabilizes, it doesn't fall apart anymore, and you can go from there. Now then, what I got to remember with these is that I'm going to need to put that ring, it's sort of a bit fiddly to start with, as I mentioned. And I've not done this for a while, so I'm now busy trying to remember the technique that I usually use to do this. But effectively what I'm going to do is set these two rings on the right alongside the two on the left. So I don't know if you can see that one like that, and then the bottom one in a similar position like that. So it creates like a V shape. There we go, it's like that. And then I carry on from there. So what I'm probably, and again this is one that, although it's sort of stable, it becomes a lot easier once you've got 2 or 3 of the rings in. Now then, so I think that wants to go through there, there. Ooh. You know, a lot of people say, do you need patience to do this? And it's kind of like, no, not really. But what you do need, the patience comes in when it's not working right. So like when I'm just now currently trying to get these things in, so when you can't quite get a ring to go where you want it to go, it's being a little bit awkward with you, and I think that is because I want I'm trying to remember now how this goes together. Alright. So if you thought this was going to be a professional stream, maybe not as professional as you thought. Is it like that, and then let's just come over the top. No, that's not right. With a lot of weaves, and this one is no exception, there is an easy way, and once you work it out or learn it, it becomes easy to do. And I've forgotten it at the moment. This particular one. I think rings, play ball. Is that it? Is that it? Where does my next ring go? On, it's got to go on there. Yep, that's sort of it. Close. One, two. Right, now then, you, I know, where are you? Right, I'll try that again. So this frustration. What I've got to do is take a deep breath at this point and go, it's going to work. I know it's going to work. I know it's going to work because I'm going to make it work. And usually at this point I start talking to the rings as well. You know, I'm sort of saying things to them like, you are going to go where I want you to go. There is no point in resisting. Or to quote another program, resistance is futile. And talking to the rings is fine. That's not a problem. It only becomes a problem when they talk back to you. There we go. Now then, if I've got that right, I shall find out in a moment, then I just want 2 rings over the top of there. And now close that one up like that. What I've now got to do is I've got to put another ring through that same path. I'm just aligning it so those 2 go on the outside there. So I've got to follow, because they're all done in 2s. So what I'm going to do is follow that particular path of the ring. Sounds like a video game, doesn't it? Path of the ring. Okay, once a couple of these are in, this becomes a lot easier. Some of it is kind of awkward just because you're trying to hold things in the right place to start with. I'm working with shiny rings, which in itself is a bit of a challenge because shiny rings, bright lights, and the fact that I'm wearing glasses means I can't always see the ends of the rings. Right. You have got to go on that side ring. You are going to go there we go. Right. So what I've got here is I've got the start of the pattern. It's kind of like a rinse and repeat. I don't know if you can just see that, but we start it's a herringbone, and we will get the same thing on this side as well. But the herringbone goes that way on one side and that way on the other. There are variants where it goes the same direction on both sides, which is quite clever in a way. So I usually have the camera over there and I'm looking, it's down here today. So if I'm looking that way, it's kind of, I'm meant to be looking at the camera. Right, so my next one is now somewhat simpler, just because the chain is getting a little bit larger. And it somewhat is relative. Oh yes, I do that. It's coming back to me now. I fold those two side ones back to keep them out of the way whilst I put that ring through there. Then I pop them back into place like that. There. And then I put two rings on. One, two. And feed another one through. Now everybody kind of develops their own techniques for doing things like this. Just depending on how they find it easier to push the rings through the weave. It also depends actually on how you've opened the rings. I opened them anti-clockwise, by which I mean when I get a ring in the jaws of the two pliers. I'm not going to do it, but get a hold of it like this. I twist anti-clockwise. Other people twist clockwise. And depending on how you twist it, depends on how you're going to put the ring through the weave. And indeed, sometimes it's easier to twist one way than the other for some weaves. Just because, and if I sort of show you here if I can. With this anti-clockwise weave, this end, this side here, is lower than this one here. Which means that if I try and put it in from the top here, this top piece is out of the way. If I try and put this on the bottom, I've got this bit that keeps getting in the way of what I'm trying to do. So how you open the rings does also have an impact upon how you weave them. And as you can see now, I've just had a lot less problem getting that ring through than I was doing earlier, and that is because I now have that stable pattern which is holding the rings in the right position for me to be able to just feed the new ones through. Of course, a lot less doesn't mean no trouble at all. So it can be quite fiddly. Now, you can see what's happening here. I'm using rings here which have got a 5mm internal diameter. And the reason I mentioned that is because I'm just about to show you something else. These two pieces here are done with rings that have a 3mm internal diameter. I don't know if you can imagine just how much trouble, or how interesting shall we say, it was trying to put these together with rings that have a 3mm internal diameter as opposed to 5. There is a real significant difference. It doesn't sound much, doesn't 2mm difference. I mean, it's almost twice the diameter, but it's not quite as geometric. That's not the word I'm looking for. As linear as that. But this is called micromaille because it's so small, and that took about 20 hours to complete. Did that particular chain? This one here, This is a variant called rounder mail, and this is European 4-in-1. And the nice thing about micro mail though is it's like cloth, it's fluid metal. It's a beautiful thing. Actually with chainmail I often spend hours doing things like this just because it's so nice to touch. And with it being aluminium, it's a warm metal as well. It doesn't feel cold to touch. Actually, I keep meaning, one of the things I keep meaning to do it, is I've got to keep working on camera for a start. I've got some beading mats, and the beading mat is kind of a bit like sort of a foam material, which is what it does is when you're using little round beads, it stops them rolling all over the place. It sort of has a roughish texture that holds the beads in place. And one of the things means that when you use a needle, for example, to put through the hole of a bead, you can actually push it down slightly to stop the bead moving, and the material stops the bead rolling away while you're trying to stick a needle through it. And I keep meaning when I'm doing chainmail to get a piece out and put the rings on them, because I'd be able to sort of press down into it to pick up one of these rings rather than on the table, is where it's quite difficult to pick up. I managed it that time, but one of those things I keep meaning to do. It's one of those to-it jobs, and I get around to it now then. Yeah, that's right. Always worth when you're doing chainmail is to just keep checking you've actually got the rings through the path that you thought you got them through, just because it's a lot easier to fix a mistake at this stage than it is later on. Now with something like a full Persian, the half Persians, it's not too bad. Even the candy cane is not too bad if a ring's out of place to put one in place. But with something like this, the micro mail, with it's almost impossible to correct one, just because you can't get your pliers in to twist. And when you do get your pliers in to twist, there isn't enough room to twist it in the weave to allow you to manipulate the rings. So with something like with some weaves, you end up, if you find a mistake, a couple of inches down the road, so to speak, you end up having to undo that couple of inches and go back, correct the mistake, and then start that 2 inches again. I wish I could find a foolproof method of me keeping myself on frame. When you zoomed in though, it's all too easy to come out of frame. Mind you, yesterday with doing the pyrography I was zoomed out and I still couldn't stay in frame. So it's not just the zooming. Nope, that's out. Often if you do make a mistake with chainmail, you can feel it very quickly. So that ring isn't sitting where I want it to sit, and that for example, that ring isn't going down and sitting into the right place, and it's actually because I've got this one in the wrong place. So again, it wasn't going where I wanted it to, and that's because I put the ring through in the wrong place. But just as soon as I put these two on here, I'll show you something that you may see me do almost subconsciously. Is I'll often just run my fingers down the weave like this, and what I'm doing is I'm feeling it, because if a ring is out of place, it literally is out of place. You can feel it doesn't conform, or the weave is just feels a bit tight or something like that. So you sort of run your fingers down. If it feels nice and smooth, then things are right. If something's sort of lumpy, then it usually means there's a ring out of place. I'm tending to work that way, so let me tilt the camera up a little bit. What's going to happen now is I'm going to end up working down here. One of the other things about that's wrong. Working with fairly large rings, these are sort of not too bad. They're not specifically large, isn't 5mm, but it's about an average sort of size, slightly on the small size actually, compared with what a lot of stuff I do is. But it grows quite quickly. I mean, effectively, each ring is adding about 3 to 4mm to the length. When you're doing it with micro-mail, it doesn't seem to grow at all. You can spend an hour and you've done maybe ½ an inch. So if you ever try micro-mail, you've got to be comfortable with things taking a lot of time. If you're the sort of person that has to see visible progress, you probably don't want to work with small rings in chainmail, if you want to work with chainmail at all. Oops, there's it. Right. So now what I'm going to do is just work out, oh, that's not too bad, where that ring needed to go, because I dropped it on the desk. And because the pattern's established, it was fairly easy to work out where it was and just feed it back in. So we've got almost an inch done. I don't actually know how long I've been streaming, but I'm quite pleased with the progress on this one, especially as it's been a while since I've done a full Persian. Like any other skill, the more you practice it, the quicker it becomes to do any particular weave. And things like like a lot of the weaves are fairly regular. The Persians that it's an identical nailing. Okay, I don't know if you heard that snap. What that snap was the pliers coming off the ring, but it was actually the jaws of the pliers snapping together. Now what I need to look at now is just whether I scratch that ring, and I haven't. If I scratch the ring, I'd replace it. I'd take it, pull it off and replace it, because the scratch will eventually show up as a slightly different colour. It's they're not as visible on silver, anodized silver. Aluminium itself is a dullish sort of colour. Naturally. Anodized sort of polishes it, makes it shiny, and you get the different colours as well, which is a dye which is added during the anodization process, and you get like a shiny colour coating on the rings. But scratching it breaks that, or takes that coating off. It doesn't wear off very easily, but something sharp can actually scratch. So for example, if you've got aluminium jewellery, anodized jewellery, don't keep it with diamond in the same bag or box with diamond jewellery, for example, because the diamonds will actually scratch the anodization off of the metal. They'll also scratch gold and other rings and things like that as well, but with coloured anodized aluminium. And interestingly, if you've not seen it before, oops, I'm just stepping over some things. Here's a selection of colours. Now, in this particular case, a Logitech C90 camera, they have a problem with purple. It's more to do with the lighting actually, but purple is a colour which does not show up, so that's purple, as is that. I know they look blue on camera. It's the purple, it's the blue that's not blue. They're a purple colour, it's quite a rich purple. This is a lilac sort of light purple. But you know, it's a range of colours. Now if you scratch these, of course, I don't know if you can see, you might see an odd flash of silver. There's one here just in this purple, just there, if I can catch it again. I'm not catching it, but that's actually the cut. I can't catch it again, but that's actually the cut end of a ring. But if you scratch it, you get that same sort of effect. If I scratched a piece off, you get a flash of silver, which obviously doesn't look as good as it might. So keeping jewellery with stones, especially separate to in their own bags or cases is a good idea. Then it doesn't scratch your other jewellery. And just something like an organza bag is enough to keep a stone ring in of some kind, to stop it scratching other things. Now the trick with these pliers is holding the wire tight enough so it doesn't slip out, but not so tight that you squash the wire or make the ring actually ping out. I need to, before I start doing that, I need to put another ring through. Occasionally what I'll do is forget to put the second ring in, and then I've got to sort of finagle it into place afterwards. Now, whilst I'm here, I'll just tell you a little bit about the tools that I'm using to do this. Pliers, obviously. These are called chain nose pliers, or sometimes they get called needle nose pliers. One thing you'll note about jewellery pliers is there is no serrations. You can see they're smooth. Almost all jewellery pliers are smooth. The reason being, if you've got serrations on them, those serrations, if you squeeze the wire, aluminium, copper, gold, it's soft enough that you squeeze the serrations into the wire, the band, whatever it is that you're holding with the pliers. So you mark your work, which is not what you want. These are an ergonomic pliers, which basically means they've got padded handles. Or this is a relatively soft handle. It's not hard. It's not foam, but it's relatively soft compared to something like these, which is just kind of like a plastic coat. So those are actually sort of really quite a hard handle, and they do become tiring to use after a while because of the pressure that you're putting on your hands. It sort of makes your hands sore, where you don't get that with the ergonomic pliers. Now these are sort of normal or flat nose pliers. These are good for using for large rings because you've got a wide area which can hold a ring. Just to sort of illustrate, if I put that down, if I hold the ring like that, as you can see, it's holding it across a fairly wide space. Whereas with the chain nose, I've got a little tiny position that I'm holding it on. So these are more likely to sort of to twist or even to mark than the large pliers. What I've got in my left hand is kind of same needle nose. They're still flat. There's no serrations there. But these are what they call parallel jaw pliers. When I close these, the jaws stay parallel to each other. Now that has an advantage, because if I'm holding a ring, I'm holding it at the bottom and at the top there, because the ring is flat, the jaws are flat. If I try that same thing with not what you might call normal pliers, now you won't really see here, but there's a V. So I'm holding the bottom here. The top actually, however, isn't quite held. You can't really see it, but there is a very tiny gap just there. I'm not actually holding the top, and that means that the ring can actually twist and sort of slip. I can push that out like that, up and down, which I can't do when I'm holding it with these parallel jaw pliers. I can't actually move it because the top and the top end and the bottom end are both equally held. So you use the pliers for different things. That is great for holding, as you see me doing, I'm holding the sides often of a ring. So they're great for that, and that's why I use them in my left hand, because my right hand is the one I manipulate rings with. These are great for getting into small spaces, and when you've got the space to do it, using a big pair of wide nose pliers there's less force needed on your ring in order to twist it. So different pliers do different jobs. Sorry, Ace, I actually missed what you meant by, oh, how so? Nope, that's not in the right place. Again, that ring won't drop into the right place, and it's because I've put this one in not correctly. I've got a reasonable amount of space here at the top, so I could actually use the red pliers for doing closing these particular rings up. The reason I'm not is purely one of these are more comfortable. The red pliers were the first ones that I got, and that was before I knew better, shall we say. Often it's worth considering your tools and looking at the quality of the tools and deciding sometimes whether a better quality tool is worth paying extra for. And when I first started Chainmaille, I didn't know any better. The only time I'd use pliers were sort of in electronics, and you don't use them half as much as you do in Chainmaille. And you'll notice here that this is bent backwards. That's one of the springs. These were not very expensive, shall we say, and when they arrived, I literally could not close them enough to hold a ring, squeezing as hard as I possibly could, because the two springs together were just too springy. And within about 10 minutes my hands were too sore to do anything with. I could not carry on, which is when that got bent out of the way and it became a lot easier to use, and I went out and bought them. So that was an early lesson that I learned, was sometimes it can be worth investing in tools. Of course, it almost is a case of it's a lesson that I had to go through and learn. You know, it's until you've come across the situation, you know, you can look at these and go, well, what's wrong with that? You know, they're okay, and they might well be for you, and that's fine. But until I've sort of until I use them and use them sort of extensively, I didn't realise the importance of nice handles. Every time I do chainmail, I keep saying I must get out the that mat when I do this. And if I run out of rings, as I may well do, and have to open some more, I'm going to get the mat out. Actually, in fact, I'd probably want some. These aren't too bad, despite them being just a metal handle. And I think it's got to do with the fact that they're parallel jaw pliers, so there's a little bit of force multiplier in that arrangement. So I don't actually have to squeeze as hard. But also I think the shape is just generally better. But I could do with an ergonomic pair, you know, a soft handle pair of those, of these as well. Through that cap there. You also find that, as you can see, I'm keeping the pliers in my left hand. If you can get pliers that are comfortable enough to do that with, or you know, the right size, whatever, it becomes quicker than picking them up and putting them down. So although in my particular case I bought these over the internet, but if you can actually walk into a shop and sort of pick up a pair of pliers and try them in your hand, try squeezing them, as with any tool, to be honest, carving tools and things like that, then it's a lot better to see whether you actually get on with them and like them. I found that with the carving tools I use. He says, suddenly forgetting which tools I actually use. Flex cut tools. Now they have they're tools which have got. I've done that wrong. It's a handle and blade. So you get blades. And you get sort of a separate handle that you put the blades into the handle, and they've got a couple of different styles of handle. One's like a wooden handle and one's more like a plastic handle. And it wasn't until I was actually trying them in a shop that I realised that there is actually a difference between the feel of the two. And I actually preferred the plastic handle. The two particular tools I use for carving are called palm chisels. Because literally you hold them in your palm, rather than having a long handle or like a pencil type handle. But again, that was something that I didn't. I tried them out in the shop, and it wasn't until I actually physically sort of tried holding the things, I actually realised just how much of a difference it makes. You know, using a palm chisel, for example, as opposed to a long-handled chisel. Because I do small work, I don't small relief work. I don't do sort of great big sculptures, so using long handled chisels just get in the way. They're too big for the work that you're doing. No, that's not right. Alright, take it out. As with anything else, as you saw me there, I took this ring out. I was sort of fiddling around trying to get it to go in the right place, and it just wouldn't. It's easier sometimes just to take it out, reset and start again, than it is to keep trying to persevere. It's a lot less frustrating as well. Sometimes while you're trying to do this, I mentioned earlier that because of the V shape, the ring tends to sort of twist, along that sort of axis. That can be a little bit frustrating when you are trying to do things like I am here, trying to feed a ring through, because you sort of apply sideways force and the ring doesn't. It just twists out of your way. And that's where things like these parallel jaw pliers, because they grasp the ring in at least two different places, you don't have that. So sometimes I will actually, if it gets really annoying, I switch the pliers out, and I'll use the parallel jaws in my right hand. So anybody who sort of watches me more frequently or knows me doing this, if you see me with the parallel jaw pliers in my right hand, I'm having a frustrating day. And that's when I generally will start looking for things like panpipes and music like that to play, just to calm down. I've never yet thrown a piece of jewellery across the desk. I have got to the point of going, you know what, I'm going to walk away for a few minutes. And I put it down gently and walk away. I don't actually. Oh yeah, that would have probably been one of the half Persian weaves when that happened. As I mentioned earlier on when I was talking about them, there is a trick to starting them, which once you know the trick, you can start them first time every time, and you don't have a problem with them. But until you learn your own personal version of that trick, then it can be an extreme source of frustration, to the point where you feel like throwing things. Some people with half Persian, the way in which they do it is they only ever start once, and by once I mean once in their lifetime. What they do is you start half Persian the first time, and then what you do thereafter after is, if you want like a 6-inch bracelet, for example, they start, the first time ever they make a 6-inch bracelet. They start the real frustrating start, trying to make it work and all this, get it stable. And once they've got that far, what they do is they make a 7-inch bracelet. And having made a 7-inch bracelet, they take Something's wrong there. Something's not right. They take the last inch and separate the last inch off, because about an inch of half Persian would be stable. And then they put that away in their drawer, cupboard, box, whatever, and use that last half inch as the starting point for the next one. And then just add on to it. And make the length that they want, making sure it's an inch over length, take the last inch off and keep on doing that. There wasn't anything wrong, I just hadn't closed the ring properly. Because I managed to learn a trick, so I don't actually need to do that, which is good because I can never find bits. If I leave I've got, for example, I've got a number of inch long lengths of weave, which are kind of like demonstration lengths. So there's just enough to show the show the pattern, so that if somebody goes, what does a half Persian look like, or what does a box weave look like? There's a sort of a little sample. And I can never find them. They're all fastened together. They're usually in a box, but usually doesn't mean always. So I can imagine that if I tried leaving sort of an inch of half Persian, so that I could start the next one, I'd never find it. What are we there? About 3 inches. About another 3 inches to go. Actually, no, it's a 6-inch bracelet I want. So it wants to be 5.5 inches of chain, because the lobster claw clasp that goes on it is about 1/2 inch. Now then, a minute ago I was looking at that and thinking a ring has, which one is it? Not that one. That one. No, it's not that one. There. With aluminium, in very much like other metals, has kind of like a memory. What that means is when I twist them to close up a ring, as soon as I stop applying pressure, the ring wants to open back to where it was, wants to go back to its original position. It's a bit like winding up a rubber band, and as you let go it wants to come back. And part of the way you stop that is by, as you close it, you push them together so that they actually come into contact with one another, and then there's a friction which helps stop it. And after a little while the ring sort of learns, if you like, that that's where it wants to be, and it stays there. But sometimes if there isn't quite enough friction, what happens is they open slightly, and you get a flash of the silver end, and it's a little bit of a rough feeling sometimes. So as I see them, what I'll do is I'll just ease them back into position, and because they're now only moving a small amount, they will almost always sit where they are. So quite often what I'll do after I've completed something is I'll just spend a couple of minutes looking carefully at it just to see if there's any rings which have opened slightly. But as I just sort of work my way through now, they're easy to see as I'm working, so I will just, as I see one, I generally will just close it there and then. Come along, ring. You might not want to go there, but I want you to go there. And my will means you will do what you are told. And if it doesn't, I'll throw it away. Actually, I don't like throwing rings away just for that reason. Relatively speaking, rings are expensive. So they get thrown away if they get damaged, or they are damaged, they're misshapen, or they've been opened too many times. You can open and close a ring a couple of times, but after about 2 to 3 times, what happens is you get a process called work hardening. That ring's in the wrong place. And what that work hardening means, it basically gets really stiff. So if you twist it, you actually fracture the metal. So if you've ever sort of bent a piece of wire backwards and forwards and then it eventually sort of snaps, that's precisely what you're doing. You're work hardening it, and it becomes more and more resistant to that bend until it starts to fracture. Now with aluminium rings, you can generally do it you can generally open them, close them 2, maybe 3 times. After that, it's a good idea to dispose of the ring. If you need to open them again, open them and dispose of them, replace them with a new ring. Right, I'm going to have a quick drink of tea. How long was that? Just as a matter of interest. Yeah, 3 1/4 inches. Not very far to go, relatively speaking. Taking a lot longer than it would normally, but I'm just out of practice. So, anybody that's new joining, this is Chainmaille jewellery. So nothing to do with armour. Chainmaille is a technique of weaving rings together to form something. And chainmaille armour is called chainmaille armour because you've woven rings together to make the armour. Although of course back then that was probably the only reason for using chainmaille. So it's probably a little bit grey as to what it actually means. These days you probably, if you were interested in chainmaille armour, it would be something that you would not, you really wouldn't be having someone do by hand to make, by the way. A full suit of chainmaille, handmade, would probably be tens of thousands of pounds. So for historical reenactments and things like that, the chainmaille that's used is usually machine knit. I say knit because that's kind of like the way the machines do it. it is chainmail, the machine made chainmail, mainly because that a machine can actually make a piece of chainmail cloth several feet long an hour, and so it's a heck of a lot cheaper to make. So as I sometimes get asked, yes, I could make chainmail armour. No, I won't make it. A, because most of the time the person asking couldn't afford it. But to be honest, it is a really long job, and it's not, it's not one I would actually want to take on. You're talking weeks and weeks of work. That's in the wrong place. Clearly I can't count. I know I've lost a couple of rings, but I counted 15 to each pile, and I've got 6 left there and 2 left there. I think in what 6 inches, we've used 100 rings and we're about 3, so we're probably going to have about 170 rings in total for a 6-inch bracelet. I'm making this one out of sort of a single silver colour, but a common thing with full Persian is to use 2 different colours. So if you were looking at this as a pattern, you've kind of got rings. One ring goes at right angles to the other, so well, they're in pairs at right angles to each other. So commonly what's often done with these is each of the, one angle is one colour and one angle is the other, like red and green for example, or blue and silver, something like that, and you then get sort of a striped sort of effect, a stripe down either side of a colour. And indeed, if you look on the shop, so again, art.etsy.com, and you look at something like the Christmas wishes, that's this same weave, actually done with slightly larger rings, but it's the same weave, and that's done in red and green. That ring is going through the wrong place. There we go. I had to be careful of these. The two, I've done it again. The two rings have to sit alongside each other, and what I've done is I've managed to cross them over. Alright. Reset, start again. This ring is in the wrong place. So now I've got to do is find the opening. And sometimes the only way I can do it is by feeling for it with my nail, which is what I've just done there, because I cannot see that opening. That's meant to go through there. Is that okay? Yes, it's not scratched. Now maybe this one will go through correctly. Yep. So the fact that this one wasn't going through in the correct place was actually due to another ring being out of place rather than this one. There we go. Right, I need to open some more rings, so I'm going to get my pad out. And we'll see if it makes a difference. That will teach me to balance hieroglyphic pictures on top of a round-topped stool, which is that's what I just knocked off there. Right. So what this pad should allow me to do is to be able to do that quite easily, with a bit of luck. So let's open what we've got. This, how far we've got there. That was supposed to be 100 rings. We're about 4 inches. Yeah, so what about another 35 in each? So there's 3 there. What I'm using in my left hand here is what's called an opening ring. It's just a ring, a large band of metal, but with slots in it. And by putting the ring in, I can just twist. These pliers in my right hand are holding the ring in place. I just need to apply that twist to it. So it's quicker than using 2 pairs of pliers, because I don't obviously need to grasp this side. I just stick it in that slot and go from there. Some people can manage to close rings using one of these, and I can't. So it's a quick way of just opening rings. You can see I'm getting through these a lot quicker. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. 12, 13. So when I'm opening and closing rings, it becomes a counting stream. Count along with arrow again. 14. Now what you see me doing is adjusting the pliers so that they are adjusting the rings so that the open slot is at the top here. Doesn't have to be, I could do it at the bottom, but I just prefer to work with it at the top, and I've lost count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Count them first, then I don't need to count them while I'm opening them. Right, 3 more to open, then 37 to close. That's closed, we'll keep that to one side. No point in opening it to close it again. That'll be one of the ones that escaped earlier. That does mean I've only got 36 on the left. So I just grab an extra one to make 37. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Get some more out of this bag. Eleven, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. They can go over there, and these we then close. You hear a slight click when I'm closing these, as you may well do because this microphone is quite sensitive. It is literally just the two ends of the ring just catching as I close them together. Now that is actually a good sound, because what it means is the two ends are really close to each other, against each other, so they're just doing that just flicking past each other, which means the tension when they're sat like that is quite enough to hold them in place. And what I always do is I always check, see, as I'm doing this. I'm twisting them towards me just to have a look and see that the two ends are lined up. You know, these rings come in a bag. When they were made, these rings are all separate. Put them in a bag, send them through the post, and they're joined together. And you have to be, it's like those nail puzzles if you ever come across them, but you have to have the rings precisely in the right position to each other for them to actually interlink. When you try and do it by hand, it's possible, it's just a little bit fiddly. And yet, somehow, in the post, they all managed to interlink with, lots of them managed to interlink with each other. Don't know how they managed to do it. I wish they wouldn't manage to do it, but they do. Like that one. So there's a very specific, I mean I can open this ring and get it off, but just to show you that they only go up between, sorry, you can only get them apart by holding this in this very exact position and sliding them past each other. No other position works. So can you imagine how come they get into that exact position in the mail, in a bag, to be able to join together? That's got a damaged end on it, don't like that. It hadn't quite, the saw it wasn't a clean cut on the end. Oh, hello Thea. Hi. What's up? What? Meow? What? Hello? You've been outside again, haven't you? Because your fur's all down. You've got dirt. Your tail's all dirty as well, you know. You got soil on your tail. Give yourself a wash. Pussycats, much more interesting to watch than I am. That ring is pretending to be closed and it wasn't. I saw it try and get away. Okay, I've got a real logic puzzle here. Right, just a few more and then we'll finish weaving these into the bracelet. Okay, well, whilst I do this, I shall be streaming again this evening. Somewhere around between 7 and 8 PM UK time. This evening though, what we'll be doing is doing some more pyrography. So, Out of the Dark, which is a leopard. At night, coming towards you. We're doing that in pyrography. We'll be doing that on this evening's stream. This is just an ad hoc stream which I'm doing because I've got an order in the shop that I need to make, so it seemed like a good idea to stream it at the same time since I happen to be in at the moment. Normally these will get done sort of on an evening outside of stream, but as we're here, I figured I'd share the weaving. But it's been a while since I've done any chainmail. Nope, that's in the wrong place. There we go. Yeah, a lot easier to pick up these rings now. Should have done this years ago. So it's another one of those round to it jobs that I've actually got around to it. You are trying your best, Rings, today, aren't you? You're not going to succeed, but you're trying your best. Yeah, you're trying every little trick. Well, you are not going to succeed, Rings. I will make sure that you do not succeed. Ah, you see, you thought you got me then. Surprisingly, you may not realise, but doing this is there's quite a lot of concentration involved in doing this. Obviously trying to get rings to go where you want them to go rather than where they're trying to go to frustrate you and things like that. And it's actually quite a tiring thing to do. So I'm actually getting a bit tired now, which I can tell because I'm actually not saying a great deal. The more tired I get, the less I talk. So it's actually quite... plus it's actually quite warm in here. Temperature in the studio at the moment. Yeah, that's why it's quite warm in here. For some reason the thermostat says it's 25 degrees. That's warm. I don't know why it's that in here, since the thermostat is set at 21. But there's good insulation in this part of the house, and I just closed that and shouldn't have done what I've just done. Take them off. I need to fold those two rings in first, otherwise it won't work, and that ring's in the wrong place anyway, so it definitely won't work. So now anybody that's watching, you've seen chainmail being put together. I'm not as fast as some people, but I'm not particularly slow either doing this. So if somebody sort of says, you know, chainmail jewellery, it's just, you know, it's just a few rings sort of bunged together, isn't it? You can see just how much effort goes into making even what is a small size bracelet here. This will be 6 inches when it's finished. Okay. No, it's okay. Every time the pliers slip off, I always check the rings, make sure I haven't scratched them. So whilst we're doing this, let me tell you a little about what we do, what happens on this stream, this channel, I guess I should say, rather than this stream. We do a lot of other things. What you're watching here, of course, is chainmail, chain work, form of jewellery making, and it's one of several crafts which we do on here. Now, another one that you'll see frequently is pyrography, also known as wood burning, but in both cases no flames are involved, so we don't actually burn anything at all. It's a little bit misnamed, but still it's an interesting way of creating images. Also do something called relief carving. Now, relief carving is wood carving. It's wood carving but done in a sort of a special way. So a lot of people will be, I don't know, where would you see carving? You'll see carving in sort of two different places, you could say. You'll see carving either done as a standalone object, like an owl or I don't know, a bird of some kind, I don't know, chipmunk, anything like that, three-dimensional object. If you see carvings done on the side of things like benches or fireplaces, these sorts of things, then what you're looking at in those particular cases is relief carving. So the idea, if you like, being that the image has been relieved out of the object it's carved onto the surface of. And that's kind of the carving that I do. Another way of looking at it is it's kind of like whatever object is being carved, it's been cut in half, and half of it's been stuck to a board. And the half that's been stuck to the board is the half that we're carving. So that is something which gets done on the stream. Something else is called scraper board. Scraper board is a black and white art. The board is black. When you scratch it, the lines that you scratch are white, and you can make images out of that. Something else is called punchcraft. It's a form of miniature rug making. Uses same techniques for making them as rugs are made. So it's a large needle which is punched literally through material, and can be done quite fast as well. So it's a really sharp needle, so you have to be a little bit careful, but that's quite good fun to do. What else do we do? There's 5 things. I also do well, I've traditionally been doing 5 things, and I've now forgotten how many I've just described. But so what we've got the carving, punchcraft, pyrography, jewellery making, and I can't remember. I can't even remember what I've just said. There's 5. But there again, these days I also do glass engraving, for example. So and some airbrushing. So a fair variety of stuff we get through here. I want another ring through there before I try and extend this chain even further. So if you like seeing different things being done, using completely different sort of techniques, then here's a good place to do it, or to see it. And I've made a mistake. There we go. And I've corrected that mistake. How long was this now? It probably isn't long enough, but how long is it? Oh, actually it's just not that far off, about half an inch to go. So that'd be what, 2, 3, 2 or 4, 2 to 4 sets of rings. So this isn't actually that far off now being finished. If you are interested in any of the other crafts that I'm not doing currently at the moment, you can actually look at an archive of virtually every broadcast. And they've all been uploaded, all the available broadcasts have been uploaded to YouTube. So if you take a look at youtube.com/Saragonart, there is the well, I'll say virtually every broadcast is available there. That's some 800 hours of broadcasting is available. All hours recorded at the time, so everything is in real time. So something that takes 20 hours takes 20 hours. It's not being compressed down. I will at some point maybe do that. They're all also in what do you call them? Series. I can't remember what YouTube calls them, but they're all in categories. So if you want to see Amber the Owl being carved, for example, there is a category of Amber the Owl. And you can go have a look at the relief carving of Amber or the dragon, or you can go look at the punch craft for, I don't know, Mallard, for example, which was a steam engine that was done, or pyrography. There's various portraits in pyrography, so you can take a look at pyrography. Now you're looking at, obviously, at me making a piece of jewellery, taking a bit of time over it, but if you are interested in any of jewellery like this, you can find it on Etsy, saragonart.etsy.com, and there's various styles and weaves available if you'd like a piece. Although if you would like a piece for Christmas, that's not going to be possible at the moment. It's too late to post anything now really for delivery at Christmas. Right, in a minute I'm just going to measure this because I think it's probably long enough. Yep, that is 5.5 inches. So what I want now is a clasp, and it's a sterling silver clasp, and I should have some around here. There we go. That's sterling silver. Sterling silver here. I use sterling silver rather than silver plated because certain people have a skin type or skin oils which can very quickly dissolve silver plate, and then under silver plate is usually copper, so it doesn't look very good. If I use sterling silver, it's solid sterling silver, and that doesn't happen. You are trying right up to the end, aren't you, rings? Open that space a little bit more and it will be easier like that. Now then, start by taking that off the end there, and what I actually want to do at this point is check the natural lay of this. So what I need to do is, what I want is this to lay, generally speaking. So when you curl this around, boy, that looks small. The clasp there will lay on your wrist. If you put it around your wrist, it kind of lays flat, which means that you sort of want the clasp to be in a certain direction, and you don't want it at right angles, because then it sits up and sits off your wrist, and it doesn't actually sit off your wrist, it tends to flop. So what I'm going to do there is take a single let's have a look at what I might do is get a slightly bigger ring out, but I just want to put this through and have a look. No, so I'm going to get a quarter inch ring out. Okay, come on. Actually, I'll do it the other way. That ring is that ring to work as a clasp there is actually the right sort of size for this. But when I'm putting it through the weave there, it doesn't leave enough space to put the clasp on. So what I'm going to do is use a slightly smaller one to act as a joiner, and now then, how do I want that? I want that to go that way, so I need that to go that way. Like that. Now that's at that that there is now big enough for that to go through fairly easily, and there we go. That is a 6-inch he says. Let's check, because if it isn't I'll have to extend it. A 6-inch bracelet. And it is, it's slightly oversized by a little tiny bit. So at this point I have to decide on whether or not to take out a set of links. And it will be, I want to get it as close to 6 inches as I can, so what I'm going to do is take this pair out here, because these are the easiest pair to take out. And what I'll do is I will put the clasp on this pair here. Just looking for the opening, which is there. Can't see it, but I know it's there somewhere. There it is. That's it, and now that should be 6 inches, or close enough that that's fine. Yep, that's 6 inches, almost exactly. That's great. So one 6-inch bracelet. They always look tiny to me, the 6-inch bracelets. Can you imagine somebody's got a wrist that's that size? But that's what they ordered. So one full Persian 6-inch bracelet finished. By the way, I tend not to use magnetic clasps, which often are easier to fasten. But the reason for that is you really need, if you use a magnetic clasp, you really need a safety chain. And even then, with the safety chain, you only need to catch a magnetic clasp. They're quite strong, but they will actually pull apart, and it's very easy to lose a bracelet like that with a magnetic clasp. Even sort of a necklace, which is a bit heavier, is quite easy to lose. Sorry, just looking there. Quality control, something looked a little odd, but it's okay. That's out. That's the one. Okay. I've got a ring in the wrong place. Now this is what I said about fixing things as you go along, because now this ring here I've got to find the end of, open it, and then feed it back in in the right place, and I have next to no space to do that. Now there's that's the end there. Now then, what's my best way of doing that is to open it normally. So now, because this is in the wrong place, there is next to no space to actually open this ring. I've got to open it enough to go the right way around a ring. That's not going to open, so okay. What I'm going to do now is if this ring won't open enough, let me close it back up. What I'm going to do is take this one, which is the one it's not in the correct position. Yeah, there's two rings, if you like, not in the correct position. I can move either one. Okay, I've got a bit more space on that one. I need to open that a bit more. That's it. Oh dear. Now the fun bit. Because I have absolutely no idea which ring that was. Is that it? No. Now I've got to spend time finding that ring because it's open, it's not closed. It's there. That's it. Now it's important. I mean, that may look like it was really fiddly and it was kind of, you know, was it worth it? Well, the answer is yes, it is worth it. So obviously somebody's paid for this to be right, so you know, you can't just give up, like you know, let it go. But the other thing is the bracelet itself would not be fluid at that point. It bends, it twists. When you get a ring in the wrong place like that, when it's stiff at that particular point, it doesn't curve properly, it doesn't feel right. There was a slight sort of bump, it doesn't collapse and stretch right, and so it's just wrong. So yes, it is worth correcting, even if it's a real pain. I mean, ultimately, if I could not have got that ring to go in, what I would have had to do is go to the end and start taking the rings off to get back to it. Now that was in the middle and it may even have been quicker at that point to make another one than it is to try and fix it. Just throw that one away or use it as a sample type thing, rather than try and fix it. Or alternatively, what I might have done is take a pair of cutters and cut the chain into 2 halves, and then use that as the basis for building another one. I probably wouldn't have tried joining them back together again. It's really time consuming to do that, and you've got the same problem of trying to get rings into tiny spaces. But using it as sort of half a chain to build another one on, you just go from the end and carry on, and that would have been a quicker way of doing it perhaps. But as that's gone into place, that's good. It's also, one of the things I noticed was it had a twist in it. When I was joining it up to come round, I noticed there was a twist in it, and there shouldn't be. This weave is dead straight, and there shouldn't be a twist in it. And because there was a twist in it, I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't see it. But anyway, that's the objective done. That's it for now. Okay. That's the end of the jewellery. So I will be streaming again this evening. I'll be streaming in about 2 to 3 hours. I'll start again. I'm going to go have a meal now. And this evening we'll be doing pyrography. We'll do more of the Out of the Dark leopard, and carry on from where we left off last night, which was sort of blacking in some of the background. And we'll see how far we get with that this evening. So with that, thank you all for watching. Hope I'll see you later this evening, if not on another stream in the future. Bye for now.